Hi guys, welcome to Simply Scuba. In today's comparison video, we're looking at undersuits. So sort of growing up, when I was teaching, I used to use a lot of the Fourth Element Arctics. It was very much the kind of the golden standard. You saw it everywhere at dive sites. Pretty much everyone, if they were in a dry suit, they were probably going to be wearing a Fourth Element Arctic. And then a few years ago, sort of Waterproof came out with MeshTec, which is this suit here, and I just kind of wanted to compare them and see sort of how warm they are and how comfortable they are. So that's what I'm doing right now. So yeah, in front of me I have Waterproof MeshTec shirt and a Fourth Element Arctic, not the Expedition version, just the sort of standard Arctic. I just got the tops. They're both available in two-parters. I always prefer a two-part suit because it just allows for a bit more sort of flexibility when trying to do shutdown drills or something. But yeah, let's take a closer look. So they're both undersuits. They're both, of course, meant to be worn sort of underneath a dry suit, and they're both shirts. Yeah, let's take a closer look at all the little features and kind of the specs on the inside. Okay, so to compare and contrast them, first of all, I'm going to take a look at the MeshTec, the waterproof. So this is a pretty oversized shirt. One of the nice things that I particularly like about it is the neck, in that it's a real open cut. I do appreciate the kind of neck around the Arctic. It goes up quite high, but actually there's a lot going on when you're wearing a dry suit around your neck, and it's quite nice to have an undersuit that doesn't get in the way. So having this quite low, quite open cut is quite nice. Moving down the shirt, it's just one big open panel, and it's very stretchy material, especially compared to the Arctic. So that's particularly nice. I tried out these two suits for about 10 minutes each here in the studio, and I never felt restricted whilst wearing the MeshTec. It was very kind of flexible. You can kind of move everything around. The only downside I didn't particularly like is the stitching. One, it's flat lock, which is quite nice stitching, but actually it's quite scratchy. So if that's against your bare skin, it can get quite uncomfortable, and that goes sort of underneath the arm and sort of down your side. So if I was wearing this, I'd be wearing a base layer underneath, because that could get a bit scratchy in key areas. But otherwise, it kind of ticks all the boxes. It was very flexible. It kind of covered everything. It was quite long. It's not as long as the Fourth Element. You get a little bit more, maybe about ½ an inch coverage over the waistline, which is particularly useful in a two-part undersuit, because that's kind of the whole point. You want that overlap over your midsection, so even if you are stretching up, it's not going to expose sort of any part of you. At the bottom of the cuffs, we have a big sort of tape, elasticated tape. This is more comfortable than the Arctic. If you, so I use that a lot of times with dry gloves, just to break the seal so that I can equalize my glove. That's more comfortable because it's wider, so it doesn't kind of dig into your thumb over longer periods. So yeah, I definitely prefer those. Other than that, it's a very simple suit. It's as far as warmth, it was noticeably warm, but it wasn't kind of hot. When I put the Arctic on, I was getting hot underneath it, whereas with the MeshTec, I felt warm, but I was still comfortable. So it means that you're not going to sort of overheat when you're sort of topside. It's kind of breathable, and because it's this kind of mesh material, as much as it is stretchy, it's not really compressible, so that allows for that constant airflow to kind of move around you. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. It keeps you nice and warm, but it keeps you nice and cool at the same time when stuff gets quite warm. So yeah, it is a nice shirt. Comparing that to the features of the Arctic, so the first thing is that it is that much longer, so it is going to cover you up over your midsection. Over the neck, it is still open, but it's a little bit more confined, so it does go up your neck a bit more. It is soft and comfortable, but personally, I don't like too much going on around my neck, especially when I'm in a dry suit. Other than that, it has a pocket over your sort of right arm, That's always useful for your car keys and a bit of loose change. So it's kind of always to hand. A lot of undersuits nowadays, they don't tend to have pockets, but when you get out of the water, it's quite useful to have somewhere to store like your car keys and your wallet and all that kind of stuff. Down at the kind of cuff, here's that elasticated loop. You compare that to the one on the MeshTec, it's much thinner, so it just tends to dig in a little bit more for me personally. So I kind of prefer that thumb loop on the MeshTec. It's a bulkier suit, whereas the MeshTec is quite thin and compact. The Arctic, it's not bulky when you compare it to the big sort of quilted suits of sort of older generation suits, but yeah, it is noticeably more bulky compared to the MeshTec, but it is that much warmer. Yeah, when I tried this on, just kind of doing the research in the studio, I was getting noticeably hot wearing this. So yes, it's more thermal, and I can definitely attest to its sort of wicking capabilities, because I've had sort of minor floods in my dry suit where my entire sleeve was completely wet, but actually I didn't notice until I got out and realized that it was wet. It's a very clever material, so you feel dry even though you are completely wet. But yeah, all in, at this point, if you're going for sort of brute warmth, then the Arctic is the way to go. But if you want more sort of flexibility and sort of comfort, then I'd go towards the MeshTec. I just felt a bit freer. Granted, it wasn't as warm, but if you're not going in super cold temperatures, then you could probably get away with this. It's going to improve the airflow and kind of reduce the amount of bulk. The only thing you do have to, the only thing I would recommend is a kind of base layer underneath, because this stitching is much scratchier compared to this on the Arctic. So yeah, let's kind of get on the inside and really kind of see which one is better. Okay, so in comparing these two, the first sort of main comparison is in the price. They're pretty much the same. At the moment, the Arctic retails at around sort of £115, whereas the MeshTec is around the sort of £108. So they're very much in the same kind of ballpark, but then it kind of whittles down to which one's warmer, which one's more flexible, and kind of what each suit does. So obviously the Arctic is noticeably heavier. It is a bulkier material, which does make it warmer. So if you're diving in colder temperatures under a trilaminate, then yes, I'd be definitely recommending the Arctic. Whereas if you're diving in the summery months, then this is going to be a bit too much. I'd switch you over to the MeshTec. If you're diving in a neoprene dry suit, then I'd probably lean towards the MeshTec anyway, whether it's sort of particularly warm or cold, depending on how seriously cold you're going, because it's less bulky. You don't really want Arctic underneath a neoprene dry suit, because it just tends to be a bit too bulky. You've got too much going on, and it's going to just restrict movement, whereas the MeshTec is going to allow for that kind of movement. And in the kind of warmer sort of summery months, it means that you're going to stay cool. You're not going to be uncomfortably warm when sort of kitting up. So they're doing kind of the same things, but they're for different divers. So yeah, colder temperatures in trilaminate, I'd recommend the Arctic. But if you dive in a neoprene or you dive in a trilaminate in the summertime, then I'd sort of recommend the MeshTec. Which one is better? The Arctic keeps you warmer, but if you value flexibility and sort of reduce bulk, then the MeshTec. So this one kind of boils down to, okay, yes, the Arctic is warmer, so technically it is better, but you're only really going to be able to appreciate that in the real sort of winter months, whereas in the summery months, you're not going to want all of this. So if you're not diving in the winter time, the autumn-winter kind of season, then yeah, I'd be more than happy just with the MeshTec. it's not as warm, but it's warm enough. It's going to do the job. The only thing I'm not a huge fan on is that stitching. You can't wear this against your bare skin. It's just going to be uncomfortable. I'm not sure why they put this this stitching on it. Maybe in like a few generations they might sort of switch that that stitching up so it's a bit more comfortable. But yeah, as a general winner, I'm leaning to the fourth element. But of course, what do you guys recommend? What do you use? I use a very different dry suit undersuit when I diving. But of course, what do you guys use and why? In sort of what conditions do you dive in? Sort of temperature-wise, what kind of dry suit as well? Try and help one another kind of work out. Oh, okay. If you're new to dry suit diving, I want to be diving in these kind of water temperatures. I have this kind of dry suit. What would you recommend? Let us know in the comments below. If you want us to compare two things in particular, put it down in the comments below. We'll dig it out of stock and kind of mash them together, see which one comes out on top. But for this one, it's the fourth element Arctic in my books. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to do all those social things. Click on those little buttons below, the likes and the shares and the little bell things, so that you're notified every time we upload a new video. Thank you for watching, and safe diving. We are an online dive store serving the UK and the world for all your diving equipment needs. So why not visit us at simplyscuba.com or click the box on your screen.